So Margaret and Arlene both expressed their passion for seeing more practitioners out there doing the work and responding to the huge needs that we are all aware of in the world. And certainly that's part of my passion as well, to see people who are developing these skills start to share them with other people. And whilst as a profession, yes, we can and do work with anybody, you as an individual don't have to. You always have the absolute right to choose whether or not you feel comfortable or confident or ready or open to working with any particular person or category of people. That may change over time or it may not. So, you know, if somebody rings up and says, you know, I've got X, Y, and Z syndrome and I've got this and that and the other, and do you think you could help me? And you are not in a space where you feel that you could, it's perfectly okay to say, look, I'm not sure that that my experience is up to that, but perhaps I could refer you to one of my colleagues who may be able to help. Or maybe you work with someone a couple of times and you think the chemistry is just not right. There's something that I'm not comfortable with them or they're not comfortable with me. And it's absolutely fine to say, look, I don't think I actually have something to offer you any further, and you know, maybe somebody else could. And later on we'll talk a little bit about referrals and so forth, because whilst we may well be able to help people with feeling better about themselves and their mental health or their physical health or whatever, there'll be times when it would serve everyone better to refer them to someone for whom that's a specialty. And so, you know, we will talk about starting to develop a network of other people that you refer to, you know, whether it's counsellors or nutritionists or orthopaedic surgeons or, you know, whatever it happens to be, that that we can help people improve, but there are some things that other people are better equipped to deal with in some domains. So, having said that, this year you will be moving towards a place where we will most likely hand each of you a piece of paper that says you are now authorised to teach awareness through movement. And you know, we've already asked you to find a friend or two and start practicing reading a lesson or preparing a lesson, beginning to get a sense of teaching. Priscilla actually stood up in front of 40 people and started that practice in a big way. And last segment you began playing in small groups with these hypothetical students who are preparing to get to that stage of setting up awareness through movement classes. And so I would like today to go back to those groups and kind of just think again about the context where you had a hypothetical person who was interested in working with a specific kind of target group of people. You started to think about, firstly you started to think about the practitioner or the student and what would be their intention in starting classes. Is it to change the world? Is it to get a little bit of more practice for themselves? Is it to make a lot of money? You know, what do they want to get out of it? And then you began to think about what would perhaps be of interest or useful to people in that kind of category, and some of the issues around that. So I'll just ask briefly before we move on, did that prompt any kind of further reflection or activity for any of you? Can we have the mic, please, Dan? No? Just from what we did with these little projects last time, has that prompted any thoughts or reflections or questions or activity? Oh, somebody's nicked it, haven't they? There it is. Thanks, Ruth. Up.
No?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
takes a little while to come on.
Yes, I have developed a flyer at my work at the community centre, and I have put a little proposal in to my boss if I can run some training ATM sessions officially. So we'll see if she's approving it.
Great. So do you want to tell us about how you defined the group of people and what you think you can offer them?
It was more or less just explaining it to the boss, but I'm a bit vague about it. It was like just generally, improving flexibility and open to all ages, and that I'm a trainee.
Yep.
So,
cool.
But I'm still feeling very vague about it. It's not the final draft. It was more for my boss to approve it or not approve it. And I've also done a copy of that article, what the Feldenkrais people, so what you sent out. What is Feldenkrais? Felden what?
Oh, okay. Yep.
I thought that was really, that was really good. That was called Felden what?
Yeah, by Larry Goldfarb.
Yeah, so that was explaining really well, so I put a copy in with that.
Has anybody else started to think about how you might communicate with people?
I've actually invited 4 women, all with different sort of issues, to see me from March. I've got to get my act together by then, where I'm just going to have ATMs, just one-on-one ATM, where I speak an ATM through them, but I won't be touching them, obviously. I'm not. I can see I'm not that confident at that. And they all, 2 of them have children with severe problems, like health problems. One woman has a serious sort of post-birth problem that she's had in herself, an autoimmune, and the other one has like an agoraphobia where she can't leave the house. So that's going to be part of her problem, is getting to my house. That was all part of it. So I've discussed in detail that if they were interested, and I was planning on having one group lesson, and then they were all to come at a separate time to my home, to a room that I'm setting up there. And the focus is really just on relaxation and just them finding an inner peace.
Cool.
And just as an introduction, so I haven't really been touting Feldenkrais, but other women have been hearing about it and asking me about it, other people that I know. So I'm just saying I'm just saying that it's really just a personal approach. It's not advertising Feldenkrais. Yep. It's just seeing if I did the same exercises with 4 different people who have similar but unrelated issues, if there's a shift or a change.
Right.
And they're very happy to see it as an experimental, and they're happy to give descriptions of their progress. So
cool.
That was just something I'm going to try.
So Arlene spoke quite a lot about this idea of getting out and experimenting, and while you have this fabulous category of student, it gives you that kind of scope to invite people to come and experiment with you, to help you in your practice. Often people are willing to be helpful, to help you with something that's important to you. And so it's a great way to get the experience and to start to train them in coming along to something that they will learn to appreciate and enjoy. Yeah. Pat.
A lot of the people that I've told about Feldenkrais, I'm sure you have got the same reaction. Felden what? So I was just thinking that maybe I may change the way that I put Feldenkrais out there.
Yep.
And if I was doing a website, it would be awareness through movement in big letters.
Yep.
Based on the Feldenkrais method. Would
Cool.
that be any different?
Look, I think, and I probably said it to you right back at the beginning, that there's not a huge demand for Feldenkrais. There is a huge demand for improvement, for feeling better about ourselves, for feeling more comfortable, for having less pain, for sleeping better, for improving your sports performance. It's the benefit that people want to buy, not the name. And because the name's not big in many circles, then we really need to be smart about telling people about what they might be able to receive rather than thinking about what we want to sell. Joel wants to say something. Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say that when I first was looking at the training program, I was going to look at it as a completely separate, I'd be a Feldenkrais practitioner and then a corporate sort of world injury management consultant. But it's just such different worlds, and it just I didn't know how that would all gel.
Yep. But
that exercise was, for me, amazing in terms of just opening up new ideas, and I've been brainstorming and journaling.
Yep.
So now I'm sort of looking at, how I could use it in the occupational health setting. It's given me ideas from, how I could incorporate it into ergonomic training.
Yep.
And there's just so much stress in that corporate world, I guess, like how people can just be present day to day. And so it's really enhanced or helped open up ideas, I guess, and given me some food for thought. So, yeah, the questions are really good. Like, it really made me go, actually, I could use this, where I can mesh it rather than two freestanding occupations, I guess.
Yes, absolutely.
And just for myself, I guess, I'm hoping to just, if I'm going to be presenting in ergonomics and things like that, just being present, or if you're with someone in that education or training sort of teacher-student relationship, how you can be the best to give them the best.
Yep.
If I'm making sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
fantastic.
But yeah, this year I think I'm going to approach one of the teachers at the school has been attending awareness through movement lessons, and she's attending with Louise. So I'm going to approach the school and just sort of say, 2:30 on a Wednesday afternoon or on my day off, just invite the parents and teachers and whoever wants to come and
Great.
Try those lessons and just offer them and see what happens.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just on Pat's point, rebranding what you're doing, the big buzzword in everywhere, apart from neuroplasticity for fitness, is functional movement. I'm a functional movement specialist. This is a really functional exercise because, you're not just doing a bicep curl. So everyone's moving away from isolation exercises into CrossFit and all of that stuff. So some of these ATMs, like the end result of the head through the thing, like doing it both sides, and whatever the rolling stuff we did at the end of the first segment with Jenny, and the crawling and stuff with Julie and the crawling stuff. That's all what they do now in the park and all that type of stuff. So you could actually put functional movement classes and then awareness through movement through the Feldenkrais method, learn how to blah, 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 blah. And that's how you can get people in, because you could even do functional movement for elderly, which is like pelvic clock, but that's better function than they used to have.
Absolutely.
And they don't ask for big movements, they ask for small stuff anyway.
And I mean, there are a couple of important points there that hopefully whatever we do with people helps them improve their capacity to function in life. And whether it's making a cup of tea or hanging out the washing or jogging around the block or, winning the Olympics, it really doesn't matter. We want them to be able to do something that has meaning for them in their life, not just to, have strong muscles or whatever the old-fashioned trend was. But we've got
80s trend.
We've got to be willing to get out there and be seen, or everybody else is going to co-opt these ideas. Now, I've said to a couple of you already, yesterday I had a phone call from someone who's inquiring about training, and he said, oh, it's got to start soon because, now's the time I'm interested, and I've been looking at, I can't remember the names of the things, but structural integrative technique or, bio thingamy-bob whatnots, or there are so many son of and revisit of and bastardizations of that. It's great to see Feldenkrais in the name somewhere, but that's not what people are searching for. They want something that makes sense to them.
Actually, there's this thing called Animal Flow and Primal Move, which are basically like the end result of Feldenkrais, and they get taught in one day. So the fitness professionals go and see it, and it's quite well done. Like everything starts from a lying down position, and you do a few things, and then you're in a front position, then 4-point, and then half kneeling, and then standing. Like is the and then full kneeling, and then standing, whatever. So it goes through a list of ways that you can come from on your back to a standing thing and exercise. But it's so quick that no one understands it, so they just run through a whole lot of moves. And, it still does people a lot of good because most people are agile enough. Oh, yeah, but but I was going to say, and then people get hurt by it too. Like, so it does people good, but then people who can't use their body well to begin with get hurt by it and then have to go and rehab. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
she was with her body to some degree.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering with you two, because you both do martial arts, and so to some extent those people already interested in awareness through movement.
I just have to correct something. I did martial arts years ago as a kid for a time, and I have some kind of awareness that came out of that, but Arlene's kind of been touting something that's not entirely true. Where's Ruth? Ruth's our martial arts current engaged expert. Well, mess with her as much as you like because she'll have a lot to teach you. That she's an Aikido black belt. So if you want martial arts, go that way. If you want mechanical thinking, which has come out a little bit of my martial arts training years ago, and my desire as a small child to be as strong as the boys, then you learn to use your body weight in a way that avoids having to use muscles that are not as well developed as somebody else's. So anyway, you were going to say.
Still works on the same track and similar track to what Joel was saying too. Like, have you found that, like, were you already doing it when you were doing the training, and then have you found that speaking to people around you because they're already interested in awareness through movement, that you're able to sort of speak about it more easily? Because when I think about potentially doing classes for my friends who are circus people, like, all we talk about is our bodies all of the time. We're obsessed. And not necessarily in the right way or the wrong way or whatever. We just are. And so I'm thinking, awareness through movement is enough for them to say that, or to say stepping away from pain or something like that, because that's, and I'm just wondering if you're talking to people who are already.
Okay, so step one, listen. Okay. Now, the reason, there are a number of reasons that we've done these activities and that I've set them up the way that I have. First, it's always easier to give somebody else advice than to take it yourself. So I'm asking you to become coaches to help these hypothetical students sort out their stuff so that you're dealing with them, not yourselves. All right? Do you recognise that? It's a strategy. So, I encourage you to engage with that strategy, to think about how would you help, Carmen and Ivana and Tuti and all the others, how would you actually help them to develop a plan? Okay? And you can't obviously ask them questions and get an answer, but you can kind of pretend to. You can draw on your experience of people you know or your own experience, to start to get a sense of what does that particular client group actually want. You know, do they want less pain in their bodies? Do they want to feel more relaxed? Do they want to win the medal? What is it that they want? Because unless we package our message in a way that connects with that need, it's like, oh yeah, that's just another thing. You know, I'll go back to the chiropractor or wherever they currently go. So, not that I've got anything against chiropractors. I'm sure we've all got our own kind of areas of connection to people. But if we want to connect to people, we have to start by listening to what are they talking about. Some years back there was a guy called Paulo Freire, a South American guy that did a lot of work on community building, and he wrote a book, I think, called Training for Transformation or something like that. And it was a little bit in response to, you know, the white man running into all sorts of communities and telling them what they needed. You know, you need fresh water, or you need this, or you need a storm shelter. Or instead of going and listening to what do the people think they want and engaging them in the solution, which sometimes could be tweaked a little bit to get what the funding authorities thought would be useful for them. But it's a very different approach to getting a conversation and a relationship and buy-in from the people involved. So whether you go and hang out at the well and listen to what the mothers are saying, you know, when they're picking up their kids after school, or what the circus performers are saying at rehearsal or after a performance, you know, or what the stressed executives are saying in the corporate world, you know, where do you actually listen to their language and to what they're trying to say that they need? Because that's going to give you the opening to say, I think I might have a solution that you might like to come and try. So I'm encouraging you in these activities to take one target group at a time and really think about how do you make an offer to someone like that would make sense to them, that they actually want to respond to. Yeah. Yep.
If I'm trying to think about this, I go, fuck, I don't know. But if I pretend that I'm interviewing somebody who's taking on a role, it's an easier way for me to get into the character.
I'm asking you to do it in small groups rather than as individuals, because hopefully between you, you might have had some conversations with friends or relations or neighbours or people around. But I'm also kind of hoping that it might prompt you to listen differently when you're at a party or at the station or, you know, at the movies or wherever you hang out with other people, to actually start to listen to what are they asking for and begin to, you know, make some notes that this target group seem to use these sorts of words. They all seem to have this kind of an issue. So that when you are building a practice or looking for groups of people to work with, you've kind of got that starting point, that you've actually noticed that there's a bunch of people who have a similar theme that maybe you have something to offer for. And maybe it's a group that you're familiar with, maybe it's the people that you already hang out with, or maybe it's a group you actually haven't had much to do with, but as an outsider you've kind of got an insight into something that might be a different way of thinking for them. One more, yeah. Marissa, in the middle here.
Sorry, just thinking legally. We're talking about running classes and things like that. I mean, just because I come from a physio world where, you know, you have to worry about getting sued and that sort of thing. So when, you know, we're talking about potentially running groups as we're learning, and obviously we're going to tell those people that we're still learning and that we're not qualified to run groups yet, or whatever. It might be with friends or family or whatever. I guess what's your advice around insurance and that sort of thing, and like, are we covered by the guild, or is that something that you'd recommend that people take out before they start running these classes?
We'll have this conversation a number of times at different stages, and it's a really important question, unfortunately. If you've just got a few friends over in your lounge room, hopefully it's not an issue. If you go to the tennis club or the choir or the whoever else and run stuff, and somebody does something silly, even if it's tripping over the doormat on the way out, then there's liability issues. So if you're hiring a hall, then often the authorities will require you to give demonstration of public liability insurance. As students, when you are doing required coursework, and we require you to get out there and practice, then you are covered by the college insurance, which I pay every year on your behalf. Okay. If you need a certificate of currency to show, if you want to hire a venue or demonstrate to somebody that you're covered, I can give you a copy of that certificate. No, that's right now. Okay. And it's also, I mean, obviously, yes, you should tell people that you're a student and you're doing it as part of your coursework. Once you get your authority to teach, then it changes slightly. If you start charging money, then you should take out student insurance through the crowd that we insure with. It'll cost you something like $100 a year or something. Do you happen to remember, Megan? Have you got? It's not very expensive, and they do have a student rate, and we'll give you those details, closer to the time. There's a slight grey area if you're not charging. Maybe if you went and started teaching at a U3A or something like that. Well, at a U3A, their insurance will cover you if you're on their teaching list. If you're just doing it as a volunteer somewhere else, again, I think there's another rate of student insurance, which is cheaper still. Or, if we write in your homework, please find a community group and go and teach them a series of lessons, then it's required coursework and we'll cover you. Once you graduate, then you get insurance as a Feldenkrais practitioner, and the insurance companies usually want to know that you're a member of the guild, you've got your first aid up to date, and that your certification is up to date. Well, you would already, yeah. At the moment, it's student activity, so you're covered under the college insurance. Do you get paid?
Oh, no, I get
no.
paid my usual salary.
Yeah. Okay. So I think.
I think it comes under occupational therapy. Actually, because I'm an occupational therapist as well. And
just take the mic, Ruth.
I'm also an occupational therapist, and Feldenkrais is listed within occupational therapy as a treatment that we can do.
How about that?
The Victorian Work Cover Authority or WorkSafe website actually has pretty much any allied health professional. If you're a registered qualified allied health professional, so osteopath, nurses, OTs, physios, psychologists, they've actually got an item code for Feldenkrais.
Yes, so, but you do have to be one of those prescribed professions.
Yeah. So then you'd have insurance. So would that insurance cover? So if you're a physio and you've got your own insurance, that would just cover. You don't need a separate insurance then.
That's clear once you're a Feldenkrais practitioner. But as a student, it's probably a bit grey, but you should be okay under college insurance because we've asked you to practice. Okay.
You'd almost be doubly covered, wouldn't she? Either the
I think
college
so.
or your employer,
Yeah.
because they're
employer.
charging the people to attend the classes you're running. So.
As a volunteer, or actually, you can't go to the gym and run Feldenkrais awareness through movement classes yet because you're not authorised to teach them. No. Well, it's. We have to look very carefully at how it was worded. I mean, a gym's not the easiest place to teach because often it's noisy. You've got people that. Okay, but you know, people drop in this week and they don't come next week, but it might be a fabulous opportunity and it's worth exploring. And I'm happy to kind of think more with it through you. Yeah, by the end of this year, it's not an issue because you can go and teach. But hang on, let's just get the mic, and then we'll go and do some activity.
What's your name? Martina. I'm saying for Martina and what Joel just said, there's a lot of companies out there that are giving one-day functional licenses, you know, after doing the training for one day.
What's it cost?
I don't know, but that's what I'm told it is. It's one day.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, she doesn't need another qualification. She's already got her occupational therapy. And at the moment, you could run relaxation classes or easy movement classes or movement awareness classes. Yeah, there are lots of things you could do if you wanted to practice that.
I could combine it with relaxation at the end.
Well, how many times do you feel more relaxed after you've done an awareness through movement lesson?
So what you're saying is she could run classes and not call them Feldenkrais classes.
She can't. Yes, that's correct.
So you couldn't say that Could you say that I like to include some ideas from awareness through movement?
Yes, you can, and it would be very appropriate to acknowledge the source of your ideas is the Feldenkrais method. It's just some careful use of language.
Yeah, I better pass it past you.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're really ready to go out and do classes now, talk to me and we'll see if we can keep everybody safe. Okay, so today I would like you to see if you can find the group you worked in last segment. Now, the Melbourne people had the big pictures, the Sydney people had the little pictures. The activities you did are still with them, so the ones with the little pictures, the sheets are in the back of the envelope. And today we're just going to begin to think about some of the kind of practical logistical issues that if you or your hypothetical student is choosing to go and work with a particular group of people, there's some very, very practical things like when are they available? When would they want to come to a class? Okay, so if it's children, is this something you do in school holidays? Is it something you do on Saturday mornings? Is it something you do after school? They're obviously not going to be available between 9 and 3:30, which might be a really convenient time for you if you happen to be of the age group that has school-age children. So then the next question is, when are you available? Can you find a match between their availability and yours? You also might want to think about where are they located. So either is it like a suburb where these particular people live, or where you live and you want to attract the ones in your area, Or do you offer them something at the venue that they already come for their dance class or their sporting activity so that it's kind of familiar, that maybe they could come for both? What sort of criterion do you have for a suitable venue? You know, if you want to work with kids, if you want to work with horse riders, if you want to work with gardeners, where would you work with them? And, you know, what sort of things are going to be an issue, and will that change as the year goes on? So things like, you know, noise or temperature or passing either people traffic or vehicular traffic, whatever. How would you set a fee? What criteria would come into your thinking? So, you know, as a student, and as an experiment, you know, you can do it for nothing, or you can do it for a donation or $5 or whatever. But once these people are out with their certificate and wanting to really establish some kind of professional credibility, you know, what sort of fees do you charge, and how do you think about setting them? Beg pardon? What the market will bear is always the ultimate test, yeah. No, that would be illegal to have a schedule of fees. No, we don't tell you what you can charge or should charge, and in fact, it's going to vary probably quite significantly from, you know, a bunch of oldies in outer Bandy Wallop West to your South Yarra, not quite yet retired people with vast disposable income. Don't undersell yourself. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it might be that you have a standard fee, but you have concession rates that mean that you can then make a variation for people that perhaps would find that difficult to pay your normal fee. Or it may well be that, you know, at a church hall in Bandy Wallop West, you charge a different fee than you charge in a fancy venue in a, you know, a more affluent suburb. Or for different groups of people. I mean, if you're in a corporate venue, then it's quite a different expectation of fees than if you're in a tennis club or, you know, doing something for the local community choir. So ideally, it's going to cover your expenses. So we'll talk further down the track about how you might calculate that and what sort of things would be involved. And I think last time we also began to think about, you know, what do they already spend money on? What do they pay to go to their yoga class or their singing lesson or their chiropractor or their whatever? So what are they used to forking out? Because expectations are important. So I'm not asking you for an actual dollar finite answer, but what are the sorts of things that you might consider? And I think that's going to be ample for today. There are some other questions that we might move on to next week. Yeah, but not every chiropractor charges the same amount for the same service, and it is illegal to what's it called? Price fixing or price controlling or something in this country, that we cannot tell you what you should sell anything for. I mean, we can have recommended fees, we can have indicative ranges, sort of, but not really. But this is something we will talk more about later. So let's see if you can find your groups. If you've lost interest in that particular target group, or you're passionate about joining a different one, please do. If the Sydney and the Melbourne groups want to combine, or if they want to stay separate, that's fine too. But at least could you gather around your people, and I'll come and give you the sheet for today. We'll start the conversation. Cecil? Cecil? It wasn't Cecil.